Now, in your training, in your classes, you've been taught that somebody who's speeding, that may be some type of indicator that they're intoxicated, correct?
Multiple things can be indicators of.
But specifically for speeding, yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. However, my client, or the suspect vehicle at that point, was not speeding, correct?
No.
Okay. Now, you were taught at your training for drunk driving that a vehicle that's going much slower than the marked speed limit is also a sign that the driver is potentially intoxicated, correct?
Yes.
Okay. However, my client was not going far slower than the posted speed limit, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you were taught that a vehicle that fluctuates their speed from very fast to very slow or very slow to very fast would also be a sign that somebody is potentially intoxicated, correct?
Sure, yes.
And my client was not, or the suspect vehicle at that point was not doing that, correct?
Correct, right.
Okay. Now, you were taught that if you see a vehicle driving on the curb, that would be a sign of possible intoxication, correct?
Yes.
And you did not see that in this case, though, correct?
Right.
Okay. You were taught that a car that's driving on the shoulder is an indicator of intoxication, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't see the suspect vehicle driving on the shoulder, though, did you?
No.
You were taught during your training that a vehicle that disregards traffic signals would be an indicator that the driver's intoxicated, right?
Yes. You're essentially what you're taught.
Please answer my questions.
Yes.
However, my client did not disregard any traffic signals, right?
No.
Okay. Additionally, you were taught during your training for drunk driving that somebody who in a vehicle who has an unusual approach to an intersection, whether it's flying through it, slowing down, stopping when the light is green, that would be a sign of intoxication, correct?
I can't say for certain. I was taught specifically each example you're throwing at me could be a sign of intoxication.
So all three of those could be a sign of intoxication.
Any number of things could be a sign of intoxication.
Well, those three specific things, right?
Sure.
Okay. And my client wasn't doing any of those three specific things, was he?
No.
Okay. You were taught that a vehicle driving with their lights off would be a sign of intoxication.
Yes.
My client's lights were on.
Right.
You were taught that a car that has their brights on when there's other cars present would be a sign of intoxication.
Yes.
My client's brights were not on. You were taught that not using a turn signal when making a turn is a sign of intoxication.
Yes.
My client used his turn signal, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you stopped my client because he was lane straddling, correct?
Correct.
Is lane straddling the same thing as swerving?
No.
In fact, when you say lane straddling, do you mean that the vehicle touched the line?
No, he went over the line if he's lane straddling.
Do you remember how far over the line he went?
His tires were over the line. If somebody, I would refer to it differently if somebody never left their lane, say they were weaving within their lane, that's what would be in the report, that they were weaving within their lane.
But in your report, you don't say he was weaving.
No.
He wasn't weaving in between his own lane, was he?
No, he was
So
not.
that would be a sign that that would not be a sign of intoxication, right? There wasn't a weaving within the lane, correct?
No, I didn't say your client was. I'm just saying you had given me that said, does that, you're trying to figure out what it meant by lane straddling. Lane straddling means he went over the lane divider.
Now, you testified earlier when Mr. Getz was asking you the questions that my client lane straddled farther up the road after you got behind him, correct?
He lane straddled after I pulled behind him, but he was a distance ahead.
Let me ask you exactly when did he lane straddle?
When I pulled into the lane, he lane straddled.
Immediately, 10 seconds after? Do you remember?
I couldn't tell you for certain, no.
Did you see on the videotape when he lane straddled?
Oh, I couldn't really see anything on the videotape as far as what lane people were in.
Well, you believe that that videotape was an accurate portrayal of what happened, right?
Oh, it is, yes.
But yet you can't identify when he lane straddled on the videotape?
No, not on the videotape, no.
Is there a point in time where the videotape doesn't show my client's vehicle?
No, it's on there.
So at some point or another, he must have lane straddled. That's on the tape, right? That lane straddling should be on the tape, correct?
The lane straddling is on the tape, yes.
It is, okay. All right. Now, precisely when did the vehicle lane straddle?
Well, as I said in my report, after I turned into the lane, he was in the center lane, changed lanes to the right lane, and then went back into the center lane. Then went back into his right lane again and turned.
So you're saying that that videotape shows my client driving from the right lane to the center lane?
Well, I'm saying that's where he lane straddled, was after he had gotten into the right lane. I pulled into the lane. He was in the center lane, changed lanes to the right lane, and then...
Did he change lanes to the right lane before or after you got behind him?
I think it was during.
Could you tell from that tape?
No.
And then you're saying then at some point after that, his wheel went, what, over the line, or did it just touch the line?
It went over the line.
How far over the line did it go?
It was over the line. I can't say for certain how far.
An inch? A foot?
Car
length?
I remember it being several inches. Say that the lane line is here, tires here, okay, so it was over the yellow line.
Now, do you remember back in February 21st of 2006, we had a preliminary examination?
Yes.
Do you remember at that point in time, I was asking you the same questions, right?
Yes.
You testified, and actually, before I ask any further questions, Aaron, if I could just approach. I'm going to show you the highlighted. Just this part. Could you please read that first highlighted part right there?
Can I ask what page that is?
It's page 22, lines 10 through 13. Thank you.
The highlighted portion says, he changed lanes after passing me, and then he continued in the right-hand lane when he lane straddled after I immediately turned behind him.
Okay. Thank you. So he lane straddled immediately after you turned behind him, correct?
Right.
Okay. So that should be reflected on the tape, right?
That's right. The tape is an accurate reflection of what happened that night,
Okay.
yes.
Now, it's fair to say then the only reason why you pulled my client over was for lane straddling, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And at the time, you did not pull him over for speeding, right?
No.
You didn't pull him over for driving slowly, right? You didn't pull him over for fluctuating his speed, right? You didn't pull him over for driving on the curb. You didn't pull him over for driving on the shoulder. You didn't pull him over for disregarding traffic signals, correct? You didn't pull him over for unusually approaching a traffic signal, right? You didn't pull him over because he lost control of the vehicle, right?